This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us. It is Thursday, December 31st, New Year's Eve. I'm Ephraim Graham. Could life start to return to normal by spring? That is what the chief advisor for Operation Warp Speed says if the coronavirus vaccines are effective. But this winter is a very different story, especially for the homeless. Charlene Aaron reports.
A surge in COVID cases coupled with plunging temperatures amount to greater safety measures for homeless shelters across the country. Some must limit the number of people they can help during this time when the need is even greater than usual.
We have not missed a beat, but every beat has changed. The Bowery Mission never shut down.
The Bowery Mission, a Christian shelter in New York, first opened to the city's homeless in 1879. Earlier this year, the Big Apple became ground zero in the battle against the coronavirus, forcing the Bowery Mission to change procedures.
On March 15th, we were serving meals indoors in our dining hall around tables. On March 16th, we were serving meals outdoors to go on a socially distanced line. It was an incredible adjustment.
President and CEO James Winans says the change comes just as needs have grown.
We saw double the number of people coming for meals that we were used to serving. We would often open our doors to 250 people. Now we had 500 people on the line. And these were folks who were not necessarily experiencing homelessness. These were folks who had recently lost jobs. They had no income, and they were looking for emergency food.
Further south, Union Mission Ministries in Norfolk, Virginia, also making adjustments.
The big, large community gatherings that rescue missions are known for on Thanksgiving Day had to be shuttered. We passed out tickets and with numbers, and we fed in shifts.
Reverend John Gray, who heads the Union Mission, says the ministry can only fill half its normal 400-bed capacity, to the point of even turning some away.
It was mainly people that were coming from other states, and we just encouraged them to stay where they were, to seek resources. Frankly, these were places where these were hot spots, and we just had to make the decision. It just was the most prudent thing to do.
For the Bowery, running 5 locations during the pandemic is especially difficult.
We did eventually add some spacing to our dormitories. We did a lot of cleaning.
There have been a few flare-ups.
We have had both staff and guests experience COVID, but we have not had any community spread. We are so grateful. We consider that a bit of God's miracle.
To keep cases down, residents are given daily temperature checks, and hygiene is top priority.
We have a modified van that stops in front of the Bowery Mission every day with 2 private shower units in it. People are able to get a clean set of clothes. We have hand washing stations at our locations.
As New York prepares for a resurgence of the virus, Bowery Mission stands ready to serve its city's most vulnerable.
We know at the Bowery Mission that there are thousands of New Yorkers who do not have a home, and we were not going to leave them behind.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Pro-life critics say a Biden White House would promote and pursue one of the most extreme abortion agendas in history. And they warn his running mate has a radical plan that will prevent states from having the power to stop it. Paul Strand brings us the story now. He reports from Washington.
What Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would like to see is your tax dollars going to pay for abortions to a degree we've never seen before.
And that would be abortion all the way up through 9 months.
Mallory Quigley at the Susan B. Anthony list.
They've stated this as being one of their big goals.
Although polls show that's opposed by 60% of American voters, including 35% of Democrats.
States have fought back against such abortion extremism in the past by handling matters legislatively, passing their own laws.
I anticipate that we would see something similar to that if there's a Biden-Harris White House.
But Kamala Harris has proposed a way to stop that.
The Department of Justice would be instructed to pre-clear bills that state legislatures wanted to pass that were pro-life. This is a complete violation of separation of powers.
Another sign of Biden's extremism on abortion is his pick of California Attorney General Xavier Becerra to head up Health and Human Services, the agency most involved with regulating abortion. Becerra is aggressively pro-abortion, states Susan B. Anthony list President Marjorie Dannenfelser. In Congress, he even voted in favor of partial birth abortion. Kristen Day of Democrats for Life says some congressional Democrats will fight Biden's pro-abortion extremism.
We're hopeful that he will not be able to take some of his policies to fruition.
But to maybe lower the number of abortions, Day hopes he'd back programs to improve women's economic circumstances so they'd feel they don't have to abort their unborn.
We would rather see money going toward, the Pregnancy Assistance Fund and coming up with innovative ways to support women to actually carry the child to term and support for the new families once that child is born.
Quigley expects Biden would return to his former boss Barack Obama's efforts to make pro-life medical workers violate their conscience by taking part in abortions, and also make pro-life organizations support it in their health plans. Biden says he'd force that even on the Little Sisters of the Poor, who live to serve the elderly, sick, and dying.
Their mission has absolutely nothing to do with the destruction of life. And he would see them be forced to pay for abortion-inducing drugs in their healthcare programs.
If Biden does end up as president, one of the only bodies to stand in the way of his abortion agenda will be a Republican-controlled Senate, which is why those runoff races in Georgia next month are so important. They'll determine if Democrats or Republicans reign in the Senate. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Still to come, typhoons devastating communities in the Philippines just ahead, how Operation Blessing is stepping up, and what part you can still play to help. We'll be right back.
To have sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Two major typhoons struck the Philippines last month. Goni and Vamco swept through 1 week apart, leaving thousands homeless and without food and water. CBN's Operation Blessing made the rugged journey to bring relief to some victims who live in a remote area. Lucille Talusan reports.
Rosalinda Lucero told CBN News, "Our abaca crops and the coconuts are all gone. Where will we get food? Every time I see a helicopter, I wave and shout for help, but they don't see me." Rosalinda is among the thousands who lost their homes when Typhoon Goni hit their town in the Bicol region. She is worried because she has nothing left to feed her grandchildren, but they have not received any assistance because their village is hard to reach. With the military's help and coordination with the local government, an Operation Blessing team traveled to Rosalinda's village, crossing rivers to bring the remote village much-needed food, hygiene kits, and prayer.
We want to let them know that they are not forgotten, they are not left behind. Operation Blessing had the heart to come here to let them know that we love them, Jesus loves them.
Rosalinda says she is grateful because finally her cries for help have been heard. However, after only a few days of good weather, another strong typhoon hit the Bicol region and other parts of the country. Barely recovering from the devastation brought about by Typhoon Goni, the people here are bearing the brunt of another strong typhoon, Vamco. Thank God Operation Blessing has sent a team in advance, prepared to give immediate assistance to the victims of this storm. Operation Blessing teams are also conducting disaster relief efforts in Metro Manila and other provinces that have also been directly hit by Typhoon Vamco. They will be distributing food, mats, blankets, hygiene kits, and drinking water to suffering typhoon survivors. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Camarines Norte, Philippines.
If you have the means to give, to donate, or to Operation Blessing's Disaster Relief Fund, you can help with their efforts by calling the number on your screen, or you can simply visit CBN.com. Communities of faith trying to encourage believers. Just ahead, how churches are adapting to COVID-19 restrictions to continue their message of hope. We'll be right back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
The pandemic has upended lives all across America, and at a time when people need their churches the most, many of them have been labeled hotspots and shut down. So how are these ministries reaching out to their communities now? CBN's Tara Mergener brings us the story.
Experience in helping people deal with tragedy and disaster allows the faith community to gain trust, reduce fear, and spread hope where it's needed most.
And religious gatherings are emerging as hotspots now.
As COVID restrictions ramp up again across the country,
we also put out new guidelines for places of worship.
Churches must remain creative.
How was that for you?
In the 20 years I've been ministering, so I just had to imagine that they were out there and try to ignore all the empty seats.
To ensure meaningful worship while encouraging hope and fellowship amid a relentless pandemic.
In that great solidarity, we too shall rise.
Still, we find our social and spiritual interactions limited, not by choice, but in many cases by law.
Church services have resumed here in New York City, but with limited capacity.
Since COVID first hit, we've seen how loneliness, fear, and stress can overwhelm.
The church is oftentimes where people turn first when they're in a crisis and looking for help. So that one of the immediate things that churches can do would be, to provide counseling or other types of support services.
It was like, hey, I believe that the Lord is calling us out of the boat, like Peter.
Ernest Clover of DC's Dream Center says following that divine direction means leaning on faith.
I don't know where the other side is. I don't know how bad this storm will get. Lord, we are grateful that we have this opportunity to come here today.
With the blessing of his team, Clover and the Dream Center have been supporting the community.
7 days a week, giving out non-essential items has been a drastic change.
How many? Just one cold, one hot.
Temporarily scrapping other community programs to focus on food.
And I get to work there on Saturdays in the open market when they distribute produce to everyone.
And other supplies to help those in need.
I help prepare the meals that go out every day since March 16th.
It fills the gaps. I would say due to the income that comes in for me right now, it's not a whole lot, but it does what it does.
We've had over 50,000 meals go out of that window in that little White House. We've had over 100,000 hygiene items and non-perishable food items go out of this Dream Center. And something I wouldn't even have the parameter to pray for, which was fresh produce.
And much like churches and ministries elsewhere,
because the structures of society have been so thoroughly rocked to their foundations.
People are coming to the center with a hunger for more than food.
Even when we're not giving out items, they just want to talk.
A basic need that for some is no longer easily met, which health experts say can have grave consequences. As the government and healthcare system deal with areas like testing, masks, and social distancing, Dr. Stephen Gersovich says ministries play an essential role addressing the unprecedented social isolation felt by so many.
Being able to offer people, the hope that we have in Jesus Christ, and being able to, to offer people, opportunities for connectedness. We as a church are uniquely positioned to be able to care for them and to offer encouragement and hope.
Experts say outreach during this holiday season could be more important than ever. Even before COVID, this time of year can be lonely and even depressing for some of your family and friends. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Coming up, we're taking a look at Chadwick Boseman's final bow. His castmates are taking us inside what they call a divine moment on the set. We'll be right back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Welcome back. The acting world suffered a big loss with the death of Chadwick Boseman earlier this year, back in August, in fact. He was famous for playing cultural and cinematic giants like Black Panther, James Brown, Jackie Robinson, and Thurgood Marshall. In his final acting role, he helps to bring an August Wilson play to the theater, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Here's a look at Boseman's final bow and a candid conversation with his castmates.
I got a friend.
Come on, Levy. You rehearse like everybody else.
I'm gonna get me a band and make me some records.
You call that playing music?
I know what I'm doing. Go on and fire me, I don't care.
When I got there, they began to say.
Levy, the sooner you understand it ain't what you say, it's what Ma said to count.
You don't know nothing about what kind of blood I got, what kind of heart I got beat here. Come on!
Coleman, you play Cutler. Glenn, you play Toledo. And Michael, you play Slow Drag. Tell me what you like most about your characters.
That's a good question. I like it. He's like, all right, nonsense. He's very pragmatic. He's just like, I got to move through all this foolishness. Yeah.
I think that Toledo is a self-taught man. He's self-educated. He taught himself to read. He taught himself to do many things, and I think he's proud of that about himself. So he's a man of a great deal of distinction. He considers himself a distinguished gentleman.
He is. Michael, what about Slow Drag?
I like Slow Drag that he's a bit of a hedonist. He knows how to that no matter what is going on around him, he's going to find a way. He's going to find space to have a good time. He's going to find a way to turn a bad situation good. You know.
Always looking to have a good time.
Good time. Coleman, there is a pivotal scene in this film, as well as the play. I had the opportunity to see it on Broadway, between your character and Chadwick Boseman's character when it comes to God and the battle over faith. Can you take me inside that scene? What was it like for that to play out, especially in light of all that we now know about what Chadwick was going through?
Well, that scene is, I think that's the pinnacle of a lot of the arguments that we were having in the room. but it's underneath all of it. I think everyone's arguments, everyone's story, it's all underneath it. So I think it's just part of the build that it becomes this question of faith. And I think why it's so resonant is because we all live with that. We all, whether anyone who is a faithful man of God, there's always that little thing in the back of your head saying, well, what if this person's true? What if this person just has challenged me with my faith and laid out the receipts clearly in his language, and it hurts. So that's what that scene is about. And we came at it with so much to let ourselves be a part of it, to bring ourselves into it. Looking in hindsight, I didn't know all that what Chad was bringing into it. Neither did Michael, neither did Glenn. But we knew that in that moment when we filmed it, and it was a very special moment where he stopped before he could give the rest of his lion's roar of language, because something was hitting him at its core. And I didn't want him to not bring it. So I just kept forcing him to be in the scene and keep going. And so it was just one of those moments that I know that he would do the same for me. I know that Glenn and Michael would do the same for each other. Exactly. That's the kind of actors we are. To get in there with each other, and we were in there, and we refused to let it go. And then it exploded, and then there was a release. We cried, and we just held space for the moment. Sometimes you don't know exactly what's going on, but you got to have some faith that you want to leave room that the divine will reside in the room. And I feel like we left room for that. It was all set up by George C. Wolfe. He set it up for us to leave room for the divine to reside. And when we did that, magic happened. Maybe catharsis happened. Maybe there was a breakthrough, something that Chad needed to let that go, to let that roar out. And he did in that moment. And we all bore witness to it. We all were a part of it. That was all of us. That was these four men in the room together, wrestling with something in our souls that we didn't know was there. So it was powerful.
It was.
Michael, what were you gonna say?
It was like a yoke. A yoke was broken for us all emotionally.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is playing in select theaters right now and streaming on Netflix. It is for adult audiences. For more on uplifting entertainment, be sure to check out Studio 5. Before we say goodbye on this eve of a new year, it is time for your Thursday Thankful. Please join me in this prayer of gratitude. God, thank you for a challenging year. I choose not to bury 2020. I see your hand in it. Like a quilt maker, you are stitching it all together for my good. But more importantly, it is for your glory, and I live to reflect your glory. With that word, make this final Thursday of the year a thankful one indeed, and do that on purpose. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today by emailing us at the address right there at the bottom of your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.